Somewhere right now, your dog is staring at nothing. Just staring. And if you asked what's going on in that little head, you'd probably say nothing, or food, or squirrels. But what if that's wrong? What if there's actually something behind those eyes looking back at you? Or worse, what if there isn't? What if you're the only thing on this entire planet that actually knows it's alive? Back in 1970, a psychologist named Gordon Gallup came up with a way to test this. It's called the mirror test, and it's still the gold standard today. Here's how it works. You knock the animal out for a second, put a little sticker or a dot of paint somewhere it can't normally see, like its forehead. Then you wake it up, stick it in front of a mirror, and just watch. Most animals lose it. They think the reflection is a stranger. They growl, they posture, they try to fight it. Eventually, they get bored and wander off, never realizing they were yelling at themselves the whole time. But a few animals do something completely different. They look at the mirror, then they look down at their own body. Then they reach up and touch the mark. They get it. That's me. Chimps get it. So do orangutans, dolphins, elephants, and, weirdly, one bird, the magpie. Brain the size of a thumb apparently knows its own reflection. Dogs don't pass. Cats don't either. Neither do most mammals. Not even human babies for the first couple years of life. Now here's the twist. A lot of scientists think this test is actually kind of unfair. Dogs don't live in a visual world. They live in a world of smell. Testing a dog with a mirror is like testing you on something using only your sense of smell. You'd fail too. Not because you're not self-aware, just because it's the wrong test. So in 2017, a researcher named Alexandra Horowitz flipped the whole thing. Instead of a mirror, she used pee. She gave dogs their own scent, an altered version of their own scent, and a totally different dog's scent, and watched what they sniffed the longest. The dogs spent way more time on the altered version of their own smell. They noticed something about themselves had changed. In their world, on their terms, dogs might know exactly who they are. But here's the catch. Knowing who you are isn't the same as knowing that you are. There's actually a word for that second thing. Metacognition. Thinking about your own thinking. It's literally what's happening in your head right now. You're not just hearing these words, you know you're hearing them. So can animals do that too? Turns out, yes. And it's wilder than you'd expect. In 2007, researchers at the University of Georgia ran a memory test on monkeys. After each question, the monkeys could choose an easy version worth less or a hard version worth more. When they were unsure, they picked easy. When they felt confident, they went hard. They weren't just answering. They were judging how well they actually knew the answer first. Rats do something similar, skipping questions they haven't studied for. Pigeons can flag their own memory gaps. Dolphins hesitate the exact same way humans do when they're unsure. These animals aren't just reacting to the world, they're watching themselves think. But here's where science hits a wall. Every single one of these tests only shows us behavior, what an animal does. Nobody can get inside and feel what an animal feels. There's a term for this, too. Qualia. The actual texture of an experience. What red really looks like to you. What pain actually feels like. Is there something it feels like to be a dog? Or is it just wires and instincts with nobody actually home? In 1974, a philosopher named Thomas Nagel wrote a paper with maybe the best title ever written. What is it like to be a bat? His point was brutal. Bats see through sound. They live in a world we literally cannot picture. And no matter how deep we study their brains, we will never actually know what that feels like from the inside. So if we can't even know that about a bat, how sure are we about anything? Here's the hopeful side, though. A lot of scientists think we've been underselling animals big time. In 2012, a group of neuroscientists at Cambridge signed something called the Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness. Their conclusion? The exact brain structures that create consciousness in us aren't unique to us. In plain English, the hardware for consciousness exists in a lot of other brains too. The lights might already be on. Franz de Waal, one of the biggest names in primate research, put it even simpler. He said we shouldn't be surprised if animals have inner lives. We should be surprised if they don't. Evolution rarely builds something totally from scratch. Consciousness probably grew slowly, like eyes or lungs did, which means it's not humans on one side and everything else on the other. It's a spectrum, and we're just one point on it. And then there's the one piece of evidence that's almost impossible to argue with. Grief. In 2018, an orca named Tahlequah lost her newborn calf. For 17 days, she carried the body on her head, through more than 1,000 miles of open ocean. Other whales in her pod took turns helping her when she got tired. Scientists called it a tour of grief. There was no survival reason for it, no evolutionary payoff, just a mother who couldn't let go. If that's not a creature who understood that something existed and now doesn't, then what is it? So where does that leave us? Yes, some animals recognize themselves. Yes, they think about their own thinking. Yes, they very likely feel something real. But the big question, does your dog actually know it's alive? We still can't fully answer that one. Here's what we do know, though. Every decade, the gap between us and them gets smaller. Language, tool use, mourning, self-recognition, things we thought were human only, keep showing up in other species. And that raises an uncomfortable question. If we've been wrong about this the whole time, if there really is something going on in there, then how we've treated animals isn't just a science question anymore. It's a moral one. Back in 1966, a chimp named Washoe became the first non-human to learn sign language. She learned over 350 signs. One day, a researcher she hadn't seen in months came back to visit. Washoe looked at her and signed one word: cry. Then she pointed straight at the researcher's eyes. She wanted to know why the woman wasn't crying too. Whether or not Washoe fully understood her own existence, she understood yours. And maybe that's exactly where all of this starts.